This is Mitch Carmichael. Mitch was elected to the House of Delegates in 2000 and has served there to the present. He's a delegate in the 12th district. He's from Ripley. And to speak on his behalf tonight, we have Patrick McGeehan, who was elected to the House of Delegates in 2008 and served there to 2010. So Patrick, you may come forward and speak on behalf of Mitch. And I served with Mitch Carmichael in the legislature too. Most of these guys I've served with in the legislature, except for Betty. I served with her while she was Secretary of State.
Well, I appreciate the introduction there, John. Let's get this straight down. I'm a little bit taller here. My name is Pat McGeehan. I did serve in the House of Delegates starting in 2008 through 2010. And of course, I'm here to speak on behalf of Mitch Carmichael. Mitch really wanted to be here tonight, and as I'm sure many of the candidates in this room understand, running for governor is very tough, and you just can't be in two places at one time. So he had a prior commitment, and he apologizes for that. One thing I wanted to point out, I really like Delegate Larry Kump's invocation, especially when he said individual liberty in that invocation. So I think that deserves a round of applause real quick. That kind of segues into the message Mitch Carmichael is trying to push here in West Virginia. West Virginia is ranked dead last out of all the national publications that come out on an annual basis. Forbes magazine, U.S. News. I could go on, and there's very many other sources that say West Virginia, from year to year, is dead last, whether that's business climate, whether that's literacy rate, whether that's computer skills, whether that's for our detrimental regulatory system here in West Virginia, lawsuit abuse, you name it, we are 50th. We're 50th. Mitch Carmichael, the chairman and caucus leader of the Republicans in the House, has been fighting against these negative, somewhat socialized policies over the decades that have destroyed our economic prosperity in this state. Government can't create jobs. Mitch knows that. But what's something that Mitch Carmichael knows? Government can destroy jobs. And that's something that Mitch realizes, he's taken to heart, and he's tried to push what I would refer to as free market policies. Free markets. Who's for free markets in here? That's the way we gotta go. And so if I would sum up the message that Mitch Carmichael wants to deliver to the state of West Virginia, it would be three simple, but very sacred and hallowed words that people about 230 years ago passed down to us. And these words are wisdom for the ages. They do not go away, no matter how much technology changes, no matter how much communities change, no matter how much people change. Those words are life, liberty, and property. And those words are wisdoms for the ages, and that embodies, I believe, the American way of life. And that's something that Mitch Carmichael wants to bring here to West Virginia. He wants to bring freedom to West Virginia. Freedom. That's something that we don't have in this state. And here's one policy that I've heard some of the candidates kind of speak about. tax reform. I've heard it mentioned from time to time from different candidates, I won't name names, and they say, you know, we got to kind of tweak this tax, we might need to reform this tax, maybe not tax it this way, or maybe we need to tax it something else. The income tax in this state, Mitch Carmichael doesn't just believe is high, he believes it's immoral. It's immoral. It's immoral to take the fruits of your labor and send it into centralized government. And that's all we've done over the decades in Charleston, is centralize power. This is the age-old struggle right now between centralized power on one hand and individual liberty and freedom on the next. And that's what Mitch Carmichael stands for. That's what he has been trying to push. For me, when I decide who to vote for, I decide based on that individual's convictions and whether he has the political courage to enact those convictions. That's the difference between a public servant and a career politician. Mitch Carmichael has never tried to profit from the power of his office. He has tried to decrease power. He has fought against unethical cronyism in West Virginia government. And that's what he stands for. That takes a lot of courage. A lot of courage. Mitch Carmichael was representing the legislature in Jackson County for the last 10 years, and he has made himself the very epitome, the very example of conviction for free markets, individual liberty, and constitutional government time and time again, even though he knew he was going to have a very difficult time getting reelected. Those constituency groups that plunder and loot and that are only interested in their own self-economic being, and they use government to profit at the expense of the forgotten man and woman in this country and in this state. Those are the people that pay taxes, that produce something of value on the market, that exchange and voluntary trade. These constituency groups, he's stared down, and they have come after him time and time again. He knows he has a tough re-election every 2 years, but he still stares down that gun barrel and says, no, it's not right. I'm an Air Force Academy graduate. My father was too. My grandfather traversed Omaha Beach in 1944. My great-grandfather fought in the Argonne Forest. I'm telling you this right now because at 18, I took an oath to defend, support, and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We need to defend the Constitution. The very existence of a Constitution requires and implies very limited government. We need to get back to limited government. We need to re-examine what we as a party stand for, and we need to believe in small government, not just give it lip service, and that's something Mitch Carmichael honestly believes in with all of his heart. He's an honorable man. He's a very honorable man. And he will uphold and defend the Constitution. Not just here in West Virginia, but he'll stand up against the federal government. And let me tell you one thing. We're facing a serious financial collapse coming in the very near future. And West Virginia, don't think for a second that it won't be affected by it. It will be affected by it. We're going to face massive inflation soon because Mitch Carmichael believes that, hey, bailouts have consequences. Printing money over and over again to pay for our debts has consequences. This quantitative easing business. We're talking about real massive inflation. And for those of you that lived through the 70s, I didn't, but It's going to be a lot worse than that. And the next governor is going to have to deal with that. So I'll wrap up with there, but I'll leave you with a quote from Thomas Jefferson, and this is something that Mitch Carmichael and I very much believe in. Thomas Jefferson once wrote, "As government gains ground, liberty loses ground." And that's what we're seeing in this country right now. We need to stand up. We need to vote for the true constitutional conservative. And we need to come together to do that. So, thanks very much.
Next candidate is Delegate Larry Faircloth.
Bring us pausing to give effect. A little bit too
Larry
much.
Faircloth
A little bit
served
too
in
long
the
to
House
bring
of
that
Delegates for 24
Oh,
years.
really? Yeah. You know what I would have done? Yeah, I thought you were going to go for it.
1980
Tree of Liberty and
to
be watered with the
2004.
blood of tyrants.
As the
and
other, as with the other